To be laid asleep in body and become a living soul means to daydream.
That's just what it makes me think of.
It's close. Is there anything spiritual about this?
Like when you die, your soul.
We're not dying. He's not dying at this point. Almost dying. Does anybody else in the Bible kind of... What?
Wait, what? I didn't say anything.
Oh, what you
There was a like a vision.
Like a vision. Like when, is it Paul that gets taken up into the heavens and can see? Right? Or John gets the revelation? It's like ecstasy, which is not like the drug, I just realized that. Ecstasy means ecstasim, ecstasim, I think that's right. This is out, and this is stand. To stand outside of yourself, when you're taken out of yourself, and you're taken up to see what is the pure truth, so that you can encounter God more face to face, not quite, that would actually be being in heaven. But it's that whole deal of standing outside of yourself. And so we are laid asleep in body and become a living soul, while with an eye made quiet by the power of harmony and the deep power of joy we see into the life of things. Remember, Wordsworth is a romantic. Okay? Wordsworth is a romantic. He's responding to the age of reason and those people who said, when you're in the age of reason, how do you know? How do we know what's true? What is reality in the age of reason? What's real? How do we know things during the Enlightenment?
It can be tested or proven.
It can be tested or proven. How do we test things? Can I say that I feel like it's going to be a good day? I've tested this day, and I feel like it's going to be a good day, so that's reality, right? How can I test something? What do I use to test? There are 5 things you can use to test.
Your hand.
Your senses. Yes, touch, taste, smell, see, hear. And actually even, when you get right down to it, those are problematic. Because if you've done much with photography, you know that you can put a filter on there and you can change the way the sky looks, right? So maybe what we see isn't even real, but that's not what they're not there yet. But it's tested and proven. It's through empiricism, which is what can be experienced, and it's very highly dependent on the senses. You've also got reason, what we can do logically, okay? What we can know logically. If I can figure it out through reasoning, geometric proofs, that sort of thing, then we know it's true. But Wordsworth is combating this. He is opposed to Wordsworth. Wordsworth is opposed to the despotism of the I, E-Y-E. Okay? He says, our senses, our 5 senses, don't tell us enough. We can't know reality and truth through our 5 senses, right? Because tell me about how does God, we're going to start with you. Okay, we're going to start right here. How does God feel? Is he furry or scaly or... No. Okay, that one's no. Okay. What does God taste like? You don't know? How does he smell? And she looks like I lost my mind. Doesn't smell like any. What does he look like? Christian 1. What does he look like? God. Okay, Christian 2. What does he sound like?
He doesn't. Yes.
We really don't know.
We really, okay, okay, maybe not God. Well, then of course we can't even think about God. Enlightenment, throw God out. Okay, how about love? What does love look like? You don't know. Wordsworth is saying we depend too much on our eyes, right? We depend too much on our senses. And so he says what we need to do is have a spiritual experience so that we kind of have this mystical experience when we are asleep in body. We forget about how things feel, taste, smell, see, whatever, all that. Get rid of that, stop worrying about that, and let our eye be made quiet by the power of harmony and the deep power of joy, and we can see into the life of things. It's kind of like, why do we tend to pray with our eyes closed?
We're not distracted.
So we're not distracted. You can't, maybe you say your prayers out loud, but does God hear them better when you're saying them out loud? And now, remember, Wordsworth's not a Baptist here. We're not talking about the same sort of thing, but he is trying to get in touch with some sort of transcendent truth by getting away from the five senses, okay? So he's trying to actually encounter the sublime. And so he says that this is how we can do it. We can overcome the despotism. Despotism is like tyranny. A despot is a bad rule. He's like a tyrant, okay? So he wants to overcome this despotism of the eye. And instead, he wants to have us focus on things that will raise us above that. On 794, the sublime is described in more detail. He says, I always have to find the beginning of the sentence. Okay, actually the last two lines on 793 again. The sounding cataract haunted me like a passion. The tall rock, the mountain, the deep and gloomy wood, their colors, their forms, were then to me an appetite, a feeling into love that had no need of remoter charm. Child stage. He just liked seeing the mountain and the cataract and the forms and everything was just beautiful. It didn't need a remoter charm when he was there 5 years ago. But he says, that time is past. Skip 2 lines. That time is past, and all its aching joys are now no more, and all its dizzy raptures. Then he kind of went through the adult stage there, got a little of the adult thing. Not for this faint eye, nor more nor murmur. Other gifts have followed. He says, a long time ago, yeah, I just enjoyed the landscape. Now, he says, I have been given something extra. He says, for such loss, I would believe, abundant recompense. Recompense is I've been paid back for the loss. For I have learned to look on nature, not as in the hour of thoughtless youth, but hearing oftentimes the still, sad music of humanity. So there's something beautiful even in hearing the still, sad music of humanity. It's not harsh nor grating, though of ample power to chasten and subdue. And I have felt a presence that disturbs me with the joy of elevated thoughts, a sense sublime. So it disturbs him, but his thought is raised higher. Okay? So it's not just the picture postcard with pretty butterflies or teddy bears or whatever. When someone has been through a seriously troubling time, and Wordsworth had encountered, there are Lucy Gray poems about the death of a small child, a little girl. I mean, you talk about something that just blows your mind. Why? I mean, that's just horrible. And so he says, he has felt a presence that disturbs me with the joy of elevated thoughts, a sense sublime, of something far more deeply interfused, whose dwelling is the light of setting suns. It's not the sunrise. It's not in the east. It's not that child stage. It's the setting suns, where we realize life has a limit. There's some limit to human nature, that sort of thing. Whose dwelling is the light of setting suns, the round ocean, living air, the blue sky, and in the mind of man, a motion and a spirit that impels all thinking things, all objects of all thought, and rolls through all things. So, he's talking about it's the light of setting suns, it runs through everything, and it empowers everything. So there is a spirit, now he's not calling it God, but he says there is something that infuses all things that is transcendent. It's a spirit that's bigger than the human spirit. Now, why would that be comforting to someone who's really distraught? Why do you want to know? It's this, the light, it dwells with the setting sun. It dwells not with the morning sun, not with youth. But if you have been through, like, say you've been through this tsunami, or someone who lost their home in Katrina, or something like that, why do you want to know that there is a spirit that runs through all things?
It makes them feel better.
Why does it make them feel better?
It gives them hope.
Hope.
Because if there's something that runs through everything, then there's some, things don't happen just to happen. Like,
Okay.
it's the same reason, like, I don't know, a lot of people get comfort out of like, oh, what's the Lord's plan or whatever. Like, it's that thought that like everything is part of what's going on.
Okay. I'm teaching a course on suffering right now, and okay. So it's God's will. You're gonna tell that to somebody who just lost their child? No. But there's a bigger spirit. Why is that comforting?